Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Thanks for logging on here to my latest update. I'm going to focus really today primarily on the tropical threat that's brewing down in the Gulf more than anything. But really quickly, before we get there, a few showers rolling through our area up to our north. Really, as I've said all day long, not much going on down here. We've got the ridge of high pressure a little bit too close to us to allow much of anything, so an isolated 10-20% chance at best today. Really just not a whole lot going on down here, as you can see, just the current radar view here. Pretty much nothing across southern Indiana, and that is a great thing. We are most certainly happy about that. Now, that said, we do have some daily rain chances there. Unfortunately, they're not going to be significant rain chances, but as we put the GFS into motion, you see every day there just some little small rain chances. Might go up a little bit from time to time here, but for the most part, nothing more than 20 or 30% chance as far as the eye can see for several days. So it's going to be pretty much like today. It's going to continue to be hot. It's going to continue to be humid. It's going to continue to have a small rain chance as far as the eye can see. In fact, quite a few 90s headed our way, as you can really see things out here, and that's going to be the story for a little while until you get down here a little bit more in this, and that's where you maybe start to see some relief as we head into the longer term. We'll have to see about that. That's uncertain, really, at this point. All right, of course, the big thing that we want to get to is what could potentially impact us. It's officially labeled as Invest 99L. I've promised a video here for a couple of days, so I want to go ahead and tell you what's going on with this. First of all, let's just look at the last six few runs of the Euro here. There's actually 7 of them now, because I don't have the latest one out here. But the past 7 runs of the Euro here have consistently showed something in the Gulf. Now, the one today kind of weakened it, and we'll talk about why here in a minute. But the previous 6 showed a pretty decent-sized little hurricane, which is why this has really been the talk of the weather community for the past 3 days, obviously. When you have this, and really for the most part, with the exception of this one run over here, the bullseye seems to be mostly on Florida, although this one has it mostly right off the panhandle into Mobile, but that's pretty darn close. That's some pretty decent agreement with that. Unfortunately, this far out, the models do have some skill, but it is a little bit of fantasy land this far out, and unfortunately right now, the models are not in great agreement, and I'm going to show you why here, and I think they'll get in better agreement as time goes on. It is going to take a while. This is going to be several days away. Let me show you what's going on right now. You can go out over here to the National Hurricane Center's webpage, and you can kind of see a little bit. Here is their 2-day graphical weather outlook, and they're giving it they're giving our Invest here a 40% chance of developing here over the next 2 days. And actually, if you look down here at the bottom of that box, you'll see that it's 70% chance over the next 5 days. So the system's not done yet. There is still a good chance that this is going to form, but it's going to take a little while to get there. It's just kind of weak and a little bit disorganized, and of course the reason why is it's just in an unfavorable environment. You see all the squiggly lines on here. This is shear in the atmosphere. What we've got going on is let me just sort of show you this where it's at, and basically what we've got is pretty much right here. That is where our storm is currently located, and you have wind shear that is in the red here, 25 and 30 knots. That's very unfavorable for development into the tropics. You really want to get into the greens before you start to lax up and get some of those better favorabilities of 5, 10, 15 knots of shear. That's not too bad for it, but right now you've got wind shear that's literally just tearing this thing to shreds, and let me sort of show you that. Here is the satellite loop here, and let me pull this away from the webcam a little bit so you can see what's going on. Here's our visible loop over the past 4 hours, and what I really want you to notice here is this circulation right down in here. That is pretty much where the center of low pressure is. It is not a closed low pressure system yet, but that is about where the center of circulation is. It's not a closed, and that's at a disadvantage for it, because what I want you to notice is what you see is all of this activity here down over Hispaniola. That's where all the convection is. That's all the thunderstorm activity. That's what convection means. It's all disorganized down there. What you want to have a healthy, strong system here is you want all of that convection to be stacked on top vertically here of where the center of rotation is into it. That will help to protect the center of circulation and sort of close it, and it can strengthen. But what happens is you've got all of these wind shears, and just look at the direction of these wind shears right here. All right, so you have winds that are kind of swirling around here, around another little area here, and basically what you've got going on here, to illustrate this for you again, let me change my color on here, and that'll help you a little bit. There's about where the low is currently located, but all of its convection is down here, because basically what's happening is the wind shear is just tearing it to shreds, and it is blowing that convection away from the center of circulation. And by the way, whenever that happens and you see a bare naked center of circulation like that, and the convection is way away from it, continues to stay way away from it, that's usually a death warrant for a system. Doesn't mean the whole system is going to die, because it's more than just this one little center of circulation. If we go back here, what you can see is all of the rest of this is part of what we call a tropical wave, and that's what that is really what they have been talking about there on the National Hurricane Center. So basically, you've got the center of circulation somewhere around here. Your convection is down here, but really, let me just change colors here, and that I think that'll help you see. But really, all of this right in here is what we call a tropical wave. And so what you notice whenever I put this into motion is that there seems to be pretty much a westward movement of this center of circulation. If it keeps on that, that's going to impact right here into Cuba. That'll pretty much tear it apart and tear that to smithereens. But even if that does, you've got all of this wave still up in here. What will happen is basically you'll see a new center of circulation form. You'll see a new center of circulation, pretty much form probably somewhere up in here over the coming days. And then what will happen is that will start to track this way, because it is still tracking towards the Florida coast. If we move back here, there's your center of circulation. All of the wind shear that is impacting this is pretty much pulling it towards Cuba right now. And if I were a betting man, just sort of looking at how disorganized this looks and how exposed that is, I would say this is pretty much on its way out. It's a very decaying center of circulation, but that doesn't mean the system itself is decaying, because you still have all of this wave up here, and this is in very dry air right now, and it has a lot of wind shear with it. But over the next couple of days, what we're going to have happen here is, as this moves this way, it'll form a new center of circulation out somewhere in here in the midst of all this. And notice what you've got going on, all of these clouds up here around Miami. This is the remnants of a cold front. This is a frontal boundary. This is moisture-rich air. It is a lot less wind shear. Very favorable conditions for development. So what you're going to see then is, as this starts to move, probably will start to form a new center of circulation and move in this sort of general direction up in here. It's going to interact with what's going on up in here, and should start to strengthen this just a little bit more. At least that's what my thoughts are at this point on it. So that means that's good news for Florida though right now, because it's going to have a very limited time to impact the southern part of Florida as far as winds. Now, rain, regardless of whether this has a strong closed low or not, this is going to bring a lot of rain with it to Florida. Don't think there's any question in my mind about that. So if you're in South Florida happening to watch this video here on YouTube, or if you have friends in South Florida, or you have interest, you're going on vacation down there, they're going to be impacted with some pretty impressive rain totals with this. But I think what you're going to see is that it will eventually move away from that. It's whenever it gets out here in the Gulf of Mexico, that's whenever it's going to be the next really the cause for concern out here, because the models prior to the afternoon runs had been sort of either taking it out into here or taking it up like this. The Euro wants to sort of then impact it somewhere up in here and then recurve it past the ridge of high pressure here up to our north. Not 100% down with that solution yet. I still think a very viable solution is that we could come anywhere in this area and then eventually eventually move out to sea in the Gulf of Mexico. And then once it gets out here, it's anybody's guess. It could be anywhere up in here that we could see a landfalling system if it can hold together. So, and there are some definite concerns here. Let me show you really quickly what the models are stating here. Here's what the tracks looked like this morning, and they were focused here. And you can see they're pretty high confidence where it was going. For the most part, there was a good spread on it, whether it goes here or whether it goes out here, but they were a little bit focused. As we get into the afternoon hours and the system began to decay a little bit more, now look at what the afternoon models are doing. This is the look of model guidance whenever it's just sort of throwing its hand up in the air and saying, I really don't know what the heck is going on here. That's pretty much, I think, what you're seeing the models do here. I think, though, as this center of circulation eventually tracks out here, sort of disintegrates overnight or possibly tomorrow, and we start to see it form a new center of circulation out here in the rest of this wave, what you'll see is the models will start to get better because it will eventually, over the next couple of days, move into some more favorable atmosphere for this. So it's not dead yet, despite what anyone would have to say. It's far from dead yet. It's struggling right now, but we knew that this was going to happen. We knew that it was going to struggle for this. All right, just for fun, here's what the GFS ensemble said this morning, and they sort of took it like this into the Gulf of Mexico and then recurved it past. So yeah, we'll have to see. Again, this is old data. It's weakened a lot since then. So tomorrow we'll have some fresh model data to work with, and hopefully the things will start to get a little bit better. But really, it was going to be towards Sunday before you started to get up in here anyway, and I think it's probably going to be Saturday or Sunday before we start to get some really good hints about where this thing could end up going for there. Model intensity guidance is all over the place. You go everywhere from nothing much here to a tropical storm all the way up to a Cat 4 with some models. It's widespread all over the place. The reality is no one really knows what is going to happen to this yet. And by the way, the Euro is starting to sort of pick up on this. I showed you the past 6 runs of the Euro here, but the one that came in today, this would be the 7th run in a row that does show things, does significantly weaken it just a little bit. Here's the vorticity. This is spin in the atmosphere. So what you're going to see is you're going to watch this broad area. This is where it was this morning. This was a pretty broad area of rotation. You're going to see it start to trend in this way, and what you're going to see is the rotation will start to pick up over here and move this way. And let me just sort of put it into motion, and that's what you'll see. Here is what happens by the time tomorrow morning arrives. The Euro is picking up on that, and it's bringing the death nail, if you will, there to what was the center of circulation now. But what you see is this new area of vorticity up here. It's starting to spin up a new center of circulation. As you continue to put in this, you see it doesn't die. It just takes off and feeds off of that new area. But by the time you get into Sunday morning and we're impacting up here into South Florida here, you don't really have a well-defined tropical storm yet by this point, according to the Euro. But you do have still maybe a depression at most by that point. You have enough that there could be some strong winds and a lot of rain that comes with this. But watch what happens as soon as it moves out into the Gulf of Mexico. That's whenever you're starting to move into this, and that is, of course, then where does it go? Anybody's game. Euro still honing in on the idea of recurving it and then impacting here. Probably would be a tropical storm or a Cat 1 at most on this particular run, because it doesn't give it much time in the Gulf of Mexico before it moves out and then moves it off to sea, away from us with little impact on us. There have been other runs, though, that are concerning, and it's all going to depend. Let me just show you this real quick on what this ridge of high pressure does. This 594 decameter ridge, this, by the way, is the reason why we're only having 10 and 20% chances of rain and hot and humid weather, and the rain staying pretty much up to our north. There were some pretty big tornadoes in EF3 and Kokomo yesterday. We avoided that in southern Indiana, thankfully, and that's all due to this ridge and our proximity to it here. But eventually, this ridge will move, and where it moves is going to be the question, because it is going to steer this invest, which will eventually be Tropical Storm Hermine, if it does indeed get named. It will steer this, and here's what the Euro is saying off of this. You notice there's the wave coming off, and finally, you come by Sunday. It's not there yet. By Monday, you're starting to see this form out in here, and of course, there it is. But you notice by this time, what's happening is the ridge here, the ridge, if I can pronounce it right, is retreating off to the east here, and it's sort of dumbbelling around this, and it's steering it back out to sea. Then is what's happening with this. Is that really going to retreat to our east or not? There's still some questions about that. Some of the data suggests it might stay in place and fairly strong, and we're just really going to have to see, because depending on what it does there is going to depend on what it does. So let me, well, that sounded dumb. Obviously, yeah, it's going to depend on what it does, Michael. Here's what I'm saying here. You got this ridge of high pressure up here. If it stays in place, basically, let me put another collar on here. What it's going to do is it is going to force this storm, which instead of going up this way, if this ridge holds more in place here rather than being out here, if it's out in here, then yeah, it'll steer this out to sea, no doubt. But what you'll have is if this ridge stays in place over here, it's not going to be going up this way. It'll eventually be forced out more like this before it eventually it's sucked back up and forced to recurve around. So that's the danger right now, is exactly how strong this ridge is and whether it's going to stay in place or not, because some runs of the data have suggested this. Here's a previous run of the euro, and here was Invest 99L, what could become her mean, and then watch what it does. It moved it out here into the Gulf of Mexico more and takes it and strengthens it because of the extremely warm waters and the longer time spent out there into a major hurricane, slams it right here into the border of Texas and Louisiana, and then look at this. It moves the remnants right over us. That is still within the realm of possibility at this point. That's a long shot, but it is within the realm of possibility, especially whenever you have spaghetti plots that look, well, if I can get it on the right one, there you go. When you have plots that look like this right now, that's within the realm of possibility. There you notice even some of those are suggesting here that we move, a good number of them suggesting that it actually moves right over the Gulf of Mexico. So that's not without reason. That's why we got to watch this closely. It's not dead yet. It's still spinning around. Yeah, it's headed towards Cuba with this, but it is still spinning around. New circulation kind of be formed. As it moves over towards Florida the next couple of days, we'll probably be able to nail down that track a little bit more, hopefully over the weekend. Let's just pray it doesn't go into the Gulf of Mexico. If it goes into the Gulf of Mexico and starts to steer to the west, it's going to be a bomb going off, and I don't want to, I want to be real about what could happen. This could be a Katrina all over again. Katrina was not supposed to go as far west as it said. The modeling consistently showed it going more towards Florida. It had a mind of its own, and it steered right in toward Louisiana as a major bomb. Could this be another Katrina? We don't know. It's been, about 11 years or so since we had a major hurricane slam us. We're overdue. We really are. Let's hope this isn't the one. We'll have to see. That is it for this update, folks. I apologize for the length, but again, there is a lot to cover. Again, for us, just some hot and humid weather with some low rain chances as you head over the next few days. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite for SouthernIndianaWeather.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.